In my videos, I usually focus on how to invest your hard-earned money to grow your wealth. But today I want to talk about how much people are earning and how we stack up against others based on where we live, our age, and so on. And let me tell you, some of these numbers might just make your eyebrows do a little dance. The latest data and information on UK salaries and earnings in the workplace is out. This shows the pay-as-you-earn income, so it includes people with regular jobs who get a paycheck from an employer. This information will only ever include employees who get paid through the payee tax system. If you make millions from your investment income and pay yourself a fortune, then you're not in this data. But I think it does give us a really good picture of where things are here in the UK. So let's just start off by looking at high-level median earnings of individuals before tax. With around 30 million people employed in the UK, the median figure shows what the average person right in the middle of this group earns. Early estimates for May 2024 indicate that median monthly pay was £2,379. £2,379 a month makes the average UK income £28,548 a year before tax. Just for reference, just 1 year ago, the estimates for May 2023 indicate that median monthly pay was $2,240. For those of you quick with maths, you'll notice that this represents an increase of 5.2% compared to the same period last year. So your pay package might not feel heavier, but it's definitely gained a few percentage points. However, I also want to see if people are actually getting richer in real terms. Sure, a 5.2% pay rise sounds great, but the cost of living in the UK has gone up a lot over the past few years. And let's not forget that £28,000 income can mean something very different if you're living in the north of the country versus central London. This real pay data is calculated when you take away the effects of inflation from your pay rise. So for example, if you're lucky enough to get a 5.2% pay rise last year, but inflation was 4.2%, which is actually the annual number of the consumer price index, including housing, this means that your pay in real terms has increased by only 1%. Now, this would still be a good thing because it means you've got more buying power since your income went up faster than the cost of living. But this might not always be the case. For example, take a look here at this chart showing real pay over time. There are two lines on this chart. The orange one shows the rate of inflation and the dark navy one represents total pay in real terms. Essentially, the navy line reflects any pay increases while accounting for the effects of inflation. At the moment, we're in a phase of real wage increases, and it does look like salaries have finally caught up with the rate of inflation. Whether you feel like this or not in your own life will depend on your personal circumstances. However, it's worth pointing out that wage growth would have to be higher than the rate of inflation to bring real incomes back up. And according to this chart, this may be the case soon. So things are looking okay on paper, but whether they feel like that in real life is a different story. Alright, that was the median monthly pay as of June 2024. But what if we move away from the middle of this group and look at the extremes? Well, according to the data, 10% of employees earn less than £782 per month, and 90% earn less than £5,474 per month. This means that earning £65,688 a year will put you in the top 10%, where about 3 million people fall. So this is the number that you're all going to compare what you earn to and see if you're in the top 10% of the country. But what about the 1%? The salary you need to be in the top 1% is £15,651 per month. That means that earning £187,812 per year puts you in the group of the highest paid employees in the UK. Around 300,000 people in the country fall in this group. Now remember that just because some people are earning this much doesn't necessarily mean that they're living a comfortable life. If your lifestyle expenses skyrocket, think flashy cars, fancy holidays, or a mortgage you can't really afford, you might end up feeling poorer than someone earning much less. Also, here is some really interesting stats on the subject of taxes. As of 2021, the top 15% of taxpayers, those earning around 50k and above, take home 41% of all the income combined. However, they account for a hefty 67% of all income tax. For perspective, that tax amounted to a staggering £130 billion in 2021. I mentioned this to highlight that high earners often pay much more tax than people realize. Not that I'm shedding any tears for them, but it does put things into perspective. So let's look at this data in more detail, starting with median earnings by industry. The thin blue line here is the overall median number we discussed before. This is £2,379 a month. Unsurprisingly, tech and finance lead the way in terms of earnings, with the median income in finance being significantly higher than the median of the UK. Interestingly, as shown in this chart, some of the lower paid sectors have seen the biggest percentage increases in pay over the last year, while finance and IT have seen the lowest growth, which might suggest that these sectors are starting to catch up. However, the increased pay could be due to a combination of factors like minimum wage increases, labor shortages, and efforts to retain employees in these sectors that traditionally have higher turnover rates. There's probably all kinds of reasons as to why we're seeing jumps in traditionally lower paid sectors versus others. Now, while finance, construction, and IT have experienced smaller percentage pay increases over the last year, let's be honest, these sectors will continue to dominate because their median salaries remain higher than those in any other industry. Let's now turn our attention to age groups. So a similar chart again, with the blue line being the median average income. As you can see here, median pay for under 18s was £419 per month. 18 to 24 was around £1,690. 25 to 34 was £2,559. The highest median earners are the 35 to 49 category at £2,758, where earnings start to peak for most people in that age bracket. After this age group, you'll notice that earnings gradually start to decline as people start to retire and get older. As you can see, 50 to 64 sit just above the overall median with £2,432. And the same can be said for younger groups. Anyone in their 20s, for example, has a much lower median salary than the group in their 40s, which makes a lot of sense when you consider the difference in the years of experience. And lastly, the over 65's median income was £1,383. So before you start worrying that you might be underpaid or falling behind, remember that salaries typically increase with age. There is a strong correlation between how old you are and how much you earn. While these numbers are interesting, they don't show the whole picture. Location and where you live plays a huge role, as you might expect. From a visual perspective, you'll see that there is a huge difference between average incomes in different areas. The dark blue and navy areas represent the regions with the highest median earnings, and the green and yellow areas are those parts of the country where the median salary is lower. So looking at this map, you will see that London and the Southeast region stand out and get the spotlight, which isn't probably a surprise. Median pay in London as a whole is around £2,801, which is significantly above the national average. The concentration of high-paying jobs in finance, tech, and professional services in these areas naturally drives up the median income. So again, not a huge surprise here. Inner London generally differs from outer London, with median pay ranging from £2,372 in Enfield to £3,635 in Wandsworth. I can't lie, I find it hard to pronounce this name, so this is what I mean.
Wandsworth.
But don't forget that given that this is a median figure, 50% of people in
Wandsworth
earn more than that. The lowest median income in the UK, according to this data, can be found in Leicester at £2,057 per month. This regional focus highlights a significant disparity in pay across the country, showing that there is still a big difference in median incomes across the UK. For instance, regions such as the North East and Wales often report lower median incomes, which can be attributed to a variety of factors, including the types of industries predominant in these areas, local economic conditions, and the availability of high-skilled jobs. I do think it's worth saying here that although there are obviously big differences, there is no way to really understand them unless we look into every part of life and the quality of living. I'd bet that plenty of people on lower salaries in the north of the country have a significantly better quality of life compared to London, as housing costs and other major factors can easily eat into those bigger salaries. I'm showing this information to you in the hopes that it gives you some data that you can then use to improve your own financial situation. I mean, I can't promise you'll hit the jackpot, but clearly the industry you're in is important. Location, of course, is obviously even more relevant, as we've just seen, because if you move 50 to 100 miles in a certain direction, you could completely change your earning potential. If you're a bit surprised by the figures we just discussed, keep in mind that no matter how much you earn, investing even £25 per month puts you ahead of many people in the UK who don't invest at all. In fact, check out this video next to find out how much you should invest each month to be able to retire comfortably. See you there.